But anyway, we were just talking about the different letters, right? We were talking about the sounds they make and the fact that if you can speak Spanish or if you have any exposure to Espanol, then you will know how to pronounce the vowel points in Hebrew. So again, they have two types. They have what you call long and short. And it's not like in English, where we have long and short and they change their sound. Okay, Hebrew vowels do not change sound. They change the length of time that you hold them. So a short one is about a half a second. A long one is about a full second. Okay. And then you have what's called a reduced vowel. And for all intents and purposes, just pronounce that as a short one. Okay. About a half a second. Okay. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some up here. Now we're going to start with A-type vowels. Okay. So you have A, E, I, O, and U. We're going to start with the A-type vowels. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a placeholder up here. So I'm just going to put like a letter X, and then I'll put the mark underneath it. And that will just, it's just something that can be any letter up there, okay? So first of all, we're going to have this letter here. We're just putting an X up there, all right? Because this is just the place of a letter, all right? And so for A-type vowels, we have this one that looks like a T. We also have one that just looks like a straight line. Okay? We also have one that looks like a T, right? And then there's the letter hey behind it. Okay? So, for the A-type vowels, this one that looks like the letter T underneath your consonant sound, and that's another thing. It's just like with all other languages, okay? You have a consonant sound and then a vowel sound. Consonant sound, vowel sound, okay? Sometimes you'll have a letter that has like it'll have like this hey after it, which that's an aspirated H. It's more like a breath, like an exhale, okay? But you'll have this, sometimes you'll see a letter with this T shape underneath it. That is what we call kamats, right? And that is a long duration A-type vowel. So when I say long duration, that means you're going to hold it for about a second. Ah. Okay? And that's kamats. Q-A-M-A-T-S. Some people will spell it T-Z. T-S will work. Okay? And then you have this little straight line here. It's just a little dash underneath the letter. And that is a short duration A-type vowel. It's called patach. Okay? So listen to the words, listen to the sounds. Kamatz and patach. So you hear how long you hold kamatz and how short you hold patach? That lets you know which one's a long one, which one's a short one, okay? And the amount of time that you hold them in their name is how you're going to hold them in another word, okay? So, like I said, you have kamat and patach, okay? Like this is long, this is short. Then you have what they call a full vowel variant, all right? It's a long duration vowel, and it will often have another letter attached to it. So in this case, we have what's called kamatz hey. Kamatz hey. So this is a long duration vowel as well. Okay? Like the sound that a sheep makes. Ba, right? So if we had the letter bait instead of this X that I'm just using as a placeholder, if we had the letter bait with a dagesh inside, a dot inside of it, that would be a B sound. Then we have this kamatz hey. That gives us the sound ah. So we could say b, ah, ba. And that's how we would be able to pronounce that. Okay? But these three marks here are all what we call A-type vowels. they're going to have that A sound, that AH sound. Okay? If I was to transliterate it, I would do AH for kamatz and just an A for patah. Okay? That comes from when I first started learning it decades ago. That was the way that I was taught. So I always use an H at the end of a long vowel. Okay? Any questions on the A-type vowels? Okay? Let me get one of them papers from you, son. Just any of them. So these are how I normally do our Hebrew lessons here. But since we're just kind of doing some review, okay? Let me see if I see a word on here. All right. So, well, no, I meant one that I'm with what I'm working with, okay? So let's take a look at this word here. All right. So here we have the letter Tav. So this makes a T sound. Okay? And it's pointed with a kamatz here. So what vowel sound should we have in this place? Ah, right? So t, ah. So that's our vowel, our consonant, and our vowel. Ta. That is one syllable. Okay? You look at the amount of syllables in a word by how many vowel points it has. So in this case, this word, how many vowel points do we see? 2, right? We've got this guy. We'll talk about him when we get to the I-type vowels, okay? But for right now, we see we have 1, 2. So this word has 2 syllables in it. Ta is the first syllable. Then we have the letter mem, which is an M sound, and it's pointed kidik yod, all right? And then a dalet. So we have m, e, d, mid, tamid. Okay? Tamid. All right? Tamid. All right, so what does the word tamid mean? That's Talmud. Talmud. All right? Tamid. What does that mean? Continuous. Okay? Tamid. Like the ner tamid. The lamp that never goes out. Okay? The continuous light, okay? Or the continuous lamp. But that's the word tamid. All right? So we see that ah sound here. Okay? I don't see anything else. Oh, okay. Well, there's a good one. All right, so let's take a look at this word. All right, so if we were to look at this word, how many vowels how many syllables do we think it has? 3, right? Because you have the patach, and then you have kidik yod and kidik yod here. Oh, I thought you were raising your hand. Gotcha. Okay, so we see right here what letter or what vowel point is this? Patach, right? Short duration A-type vowel. So this is the letter tzadi, right? So tzadi is like a TS or a TZ, right? You got to pronounce them real quick, right? Tz. So we have tz and ah. So tza, tza. Then we have dalet, pointed kidik yod, d, e. So tza, di. Then we have kuf, pointed kidik yod, with mem sofit, right? Mem sofit still makes an M sound, right? But it changes its shape because it's at the end of a word. There are 5 letters that change their shape when they're at the end of a word. Okay? Mem, nun, pe, tzadi. What's the last one? right? So this mem is still going to make an M sound like we had in Tamid, but it looks different because it's at the end of a word. Okay? So we have tzadikim. Tzadikim. All right? Righteous ones. The im is a masculine plural. Okay? So this tells us that we're talking about righteous ones. We could even say righteous men, but more in the fact of men being like mankind, not necessarily gender. Okay? So tzadikim. All right? So we have righteous ones. But that's the all right? So any questions on the A-type vowels? No? Like I'm acting like Dad, clear as mud? Yeah, I'm in the midst of learning Korean now, so you know, I'm only up to 8 languages. I need at least one more. Yeah. All right, so we're going to go to the E-type vowels now, okay? So we're going to have our placeholder again. And sometimes under a letter, you'll see 2 dots right next to each other like that. All right? That is the vowel point tsere. And that is a long duration E-type vowel. Okay? Sometimes you'll see 3 dots in a triangle, kind of like in an upside down triangle. And that is segol. Okay? Segol is a short duration. Now, like I told you before, long duration, short duration, right? Listen to the names. Tsere and segol. Long, short. Tsere, segol. Okay? Then we have another one that is used sometimes, and that is tsere yod. All right? And that is another long duration E-type vowel. So if I had to give a phonetic sound to this letter, or to this vowel point, I would do like an EH. Eh. Okay? Eh. So here again, we have a long, short, and long. Okay? Let me see if I have one on here. Let's see, do I have a... I'm just looking on this paper that I got from Azariah. I don't have one on here. Yeah, I got one. All right, so here's our word. We'll have that. Oh, my bad. All right, so here we have the letter Yud, right? And it's pointed cholemwa, so that's going to make an O sound. So we're not worried, that's going to sound like yo. Yo. And we have a dalet, and it's pointed with sere. So if we were going to pronounce the dalet with the sere, how would we pronounce that? De. The D sound, and then EH. De. Then we have ayin. Now this is a silent letter, but it's got a patach underneath it. So since it's a silent letter, and it has a vowel point, what are we going to pronounce? Just the vowel point. Okay? Just the vowel point. So we have a. So we have yo, de, a. All right? Yodea. All right? Comes from the root word yada, to know. Okay? Yodea can also be used like for an idea. Ani lo yodea. All right? I have no idea. I don't know. Okay? Ani, I, lo, don't, yodea. No. Okay? Ani lo yodea. Somebody asks you a question, you don't know. Ani lo yodea. I don't know. Okay? So that's the tzere in action. De. Okay? So say we had that same letter, that same dalet, but instead of having 2 dots, it has 3. That's the segol, right? So that's going to give us a shortened E sound. So instead of it being de, it's going to be de. Just like de, quick. Okay? De. All right? If we had this same thing, but we had 2 dots and we had the letter yud behind it, how are we going to pronounce that? Day. All right? This yud is going to, it always makes an I or a Y sound. So it actually brings it up. So instead of it being de, it's going to be day. Like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. All right? Day. I would pronounce that as D-E-I, though. Take the H out and put an I in there instead. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like the EI in the word 8. Okay? But we would spell it like that. Day. Kind of go from one vowel and kind of just swing into the next one. And it's going to bring your register up. All right? Any questions about the E-type vowels? Okay. The one before, oh, that's Yodea. Yodea. Mm-hmm. Yodea. I like it comes from the same root word yada, to know. Ani lo yodea. I have no idea. I don't know. Ani is I. Okay. Ani, me. I. Lo, that's a negator. It means no. It will always make the opposite of something. If you have a word, say you have a good word, well, you can make it a bad word. I don't mean like a cuss word or nothing, but you can take a good word, right? Like, okay, so let's just use something out of the scriptures. All right. Ami, my people. Am, people, and then the E on the end, my. Okay? So we're talking about the book of Hosea, right? So he said, take this and name your daughter Lo Ami, not my people. Lo at the beginning of a word means the opposite. So it's not, or it's a negator of whatever it is that follows it. Okay? So, like I said, we can take Ami, my people, but if we put lo on the front of it, that means not my people. Okay? Well, you don't build the sentence structure the same way that you do in English. Exactly. So what you do is your grammar is built, they're identical. So that's why I would say if you can speak Spanish, if you can conjugate Spanish, you can conjugate Hebrew because they have the same sentence structure, same grammar. Oh, yeah, we should have a microphone out here. Yeah, if you guys have questions. What Sister Amindia was asking was, if we had a word, how do we make it reflexive? So like, my people don't know me, okay? How would we change that? Well, what we do is we would need to build that, right? We would need to build that sentence based off of the sentence structure and the grammar for the Spanish language. So that's why I say if you speak Spanish, Hebrew is a much easier language to learn, because the sentence structure, the grammar, the how you build it, how you build your sentence, it's exactly the same. They both have the same. Like when you have a noun and you attach an adjective to it, you must have noun adjective agreement. So they must have the same gender and they must be in the same tense. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you've got to understand, if you always have your noun and then you have your adjective after it, because it describes it. But that's what I'm saying. So you have to do this. You build it in Hebrew the same way. Okay? So that's how you do that. All right, so I type vowels. All right, so we have this little dot underneath here, right? And then we also have all right? So we have kirik, okay? And then we have kirik yod. So we have a short duration and a long duration, okay? So kirik sounds like the two E's on the end of the word tree or knee or in green or teen. Okay, so it sounds like two E's right next to each other. Dígame. All right, so it's going to sound, but like I said, no, diga means, she's speaking Spanish. Dígame, she's saying, tell me. What you're saying, gamani, you're saying me too. So gamani, that means me too. Okay. So, or also me, but me too. Okay, so kirik makes that double E sound. Okay? And it's actually considered a short duration vowel. Okay? So, just like we were talking about here, we have the the kamatz, right? So we have aleph, silent letter. So how is it going to sound? Just like the vowel point. Ah. Then we have a nun, pointed kirik yod, ni, ani. Me, ani, me. Okay, let me get out of your way, sis. Sorry, I don't mean to keep walking in your way there. Okay, so ani, me. All right, but if you wanted to say I am, it would be anoki. Okay, anoki. But in this case, ani, me. Okay, or like we had in our previous example, ani lo yodea. Me, I, lo, don't, yodea, no. Okay, so ani, I. Don't forget also in Hebrew, pretty funny. So when we say who in Hebrew, that means he. When we say he, that means she. All right? Who is he and he is she. All right? So when we get to talking about people and stuff, and we talk about him and her and them and all that, okay, that's where we get who and he. And okay, so anyway, ani. But both of these have the same sound. It's just like the two E's in the word tree or teen or green or something like that. Okay? We're going to move on to the O-type vowels. All right, so we have an O-type vowel, right? So we have this guy, right? We also have what? That guy, right? And then we have Kim's favorite one of all time. What Kim calls the not kamats. Don't get stressed over it. All right. So the first one here, we see off to the left-hand side of the letter, we have a dot, right, over the top. That is called cholem. Now, cholem is a long-duration O sound. Okay? C-H-O-L-E-M, cholem. Then we have this other one. We have a wa here, right? Or some people pronounce it as vav. I always pronounce it as wa. Okay? So we have cholem wa. This is a cholem wa. And it has the same sound as this one. Both of them sound like a long O. Now, this one is called what? Kametz Ketuf. Kametz Ketuf sounds like an O. Well, Kim calls it not kamatz, low kametz, right? Low kamatz, low kumquats. All right, so it looks just like a kamatz, but sometimes it's pronounced as an O. Okay? When it is in a closed, unaccented syllable, we pronounce it as an O. I'm going to throw this pen at you. Yeah, give her the microscope. The microscope. Give her the microphone. Don't give her a microscope.
I am only asking, not at this particular moment in time, that if you could come up with a list of simple words that use that particular vowel point as an O so that I can get used to it in the structure of the word, I would appreciate it, because I think that would help me learn it.
Okay, so here's what we can do. I can do that for you right now. No. Okay, so you asked. This is the simplest one to... Okay. So we have the letter kaf. We have the letter lamed. So when we have a vowel sound on the end of a word, that constitutes an open syllable. Now you remember I told you that most that you know you're going to have a consonant and a vowel sound. But in this case, this letter is unmarked at all. So you can't pronounce this by itself. This is lamed. You can't pronounce it by itself. It's just ul, right? So what we're going to do is we tack that onto the end of the previous syllable. So this syllable is no longer open. It is now closed. Because you have a consonant sound at the beginning and a consonant sound at the end. The consonant sound is what closes it. If we were just had it like this, that would be an open syllable. Ka. Right? We could pronounce it as ka. We would definitely know to pronounce this as an A because there's nothing closing that syllable. So it has to be an O, or it has to be a closed, unaccented syllable. So the lamed closes it. That fulfills number one. Where are most Hebrew words accented at? On the end. This is a hyphenated word, so where is our accent at? on the end of ami. This is where your accent or where your stress is. So this is a closed, unaccented word. So therefore, we would pronounce that mark as O, not as A. The hyphen is not separated. It's two words, but the hyphen is joining them together, right? So they're working together. So it really counts as one word. But in Hebrew, we're gonna stress the last syllable of the word. So see, these are actually kind of like one word. So you have a closed syllable, and it is unaccented because the accent is here. So that automatically makes that sound like an O. And that's where we get the word Qol, like as in Mishkan Raq Qol. Okay? We spelled it wrong when we very first did it. When we spell it this way, it means all. So, Kol Ami, all my people. Okay? So, like I said, when we spell it that way, that is an O sound. Because this syllable is closed and it is unaccented. That's the easiest way I know to show you. All right? Now, Kiri Kyod works the same way. All right? So if I had, let's say I had the letter Beit, right? And I had that Yud there, and I had a Lamed, and I had a mark over top there, how would I pronounce that? Bowl. Like what you eat out of, right? That's not I'm just throwing letters up there to make sounds, okay? But we have a Beit. Now, because this has a dot inside, it sounds like a B. If it did not have a dot inside, it would sound like a V. There are 6 letters that change their sound, whether they have a dot in them or not. That's what we call the Beged Kafat letters. Mom loves that word, Beged Kafat, all right? So we have 6 letters, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Kaf, Fe, and Tav. Those 6 letters will change their sound whether they have a dot in them or not. Now, it was 6 letters biblically. Modern speech, only 3 of them change their sound. Okay? That would be the Kaf, the Chaf versus the Kaf, the Fe versus the Pei, right? And what's the last one? The Beit versus the Veit. If it has a dot in it, the dot is called a dagesh. The word dagesh means to strengthen or to emphasize. So it goes from the soft sound, which would be the V sound, to the strong sound, which would be the B sound. Okay? Chaf goes from chaf, soft, to kaf, hard, strong. Right? Fe goes from fe, soft, to pe, which is hard, strong. But those are the only 3 that change their sounds now. Okay? So what you can do, though, is based on what letters come after them, what other vowel. Anytime you see a dot in a letter, except for if it's at the beginning of a word, you can almost be sure that you're going to double that letter as well. So if you had a dalet with a dot inside of it, it's not going to change its sound, but it's going to become 2 Ds. Right? If you had a tav with a dagesh in it, it's not going to change its sound anymore, but it will sound like 2 T's. You'll mostly find those in the middle of words. Okay, you don't usually find them in the front or at the back. Right, exactly. So you have the word Shabbat, right? So we have a shin, we have a bait, and we have a tav. I like that idea so much, we're going to use it. I appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it. All right. So here we have the word Shabbat, right? But here's what happens. We have a shin, and it's pointed kamat, so this gives us sha. But then you see we have this bait here. So my question is this bait preceded by another vowel point? Yes, it is. It's preceded by this. So even though this type of dagesh doubles or it strengthens the sound, it can also double the letter if it follows another vowel point. So now what we do is we take this letter and we cut it in half. So we have a B sound on this side and we have a B sound on that side. So that first syllable goes from being sha to shab. Then we pick up the second B and this patach, right? This quick A sound, and then the tav at the end. Bat. Shabbat. That's why we spell Shabbat with two B's. Because this dagesh inside, this little guy right here, he tells us to change the sound, but since it's being preceded by another vowel point, we can double it as well. So those 6 letters I told you about, those are the only ones that change their sound. So if you see any other letter with that dagesh inside of it, all that means is double it. Okay? Whether it's lamed or it's whatever. Okay? So you're going to double that. Okay? But that's how that works. So we have another B sound because we have that dagesh, an A sound, and then the T. Bat. Shabbat. Do you have a question?
Yes, please. Why does the shin have a dot above
Okay,
it?
so shin is a letter that can have 2 different sounds. And depending on which side the dot is over, if it's over the left-hand side, it sounds like S. If it's over the right-hand side, it sounds like SH. Okay, so we put that mark over the right-hand side so that it sounds like SH. That tells us SH. Now, sometimes you'll see a dagesh, sometimes you'll see, so we have seen it like that before. So what are we looking at? We're looking at a sin, so it's just going to sound like S. And see, we'll kind of take that one, and now we have cholemwa. So this would give us the sound so. Yeah, there's no vowel point that goes over the right-hand side of a letter. So when we see that with a dot over on the right-hand side, we know that that one's going to sound like SH. But that's sheen. If it's on the left side, it's seen. Okay? Kind of like old Mephibosheth. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, we've got letters, these vowel points, like I said, they're actually extremely helpful. Yeah, they really are. So those are our O-type vowels. And so we're going to move to the U-type vowels, okay? So, what's our first one? We have That guy. That guy is called shuruk. Then we have this guy. Which is kubutz. Not kibbutz, kubutz. All right? So for right now, we're just going to focus on those two. You'll most likely see this one. Every now and again, very great, once in a while, you'll see this one. All right? But, so this mark here is going to make an oo sound, like O-O, right? We'll call it U-type vowel, and it's going to make that oo sound. So that's the long form. This right here is the short form, kubutz, versus shuruk. Okay? And like I said, these make an oo sound. Okay, so let's see here. Do I have anything on this page that has that in? No, I don't. But anyway, so let's just take another example here. Let's do samek and a wa pointed shuruk. Right? Samek makes an S sound, always an S sound. And then we have a wa pointed shuruk. So since it's pointed shuruk, what sound's it going to make? Ooh. Wa is what they call a consonantal vowel. Now, it can sound like a bunch of different things. It can sound like an O, it can sound like an I, it can sound like a U, it can sound like a W, it can sound like a V. It all depends on how it's being used in the word. So here we have this consonant sound. We don't need a consonant sound now because we have a vowel here. So we see this wa pointed shuruk. There's only one sound it can make in this case, and that is what? Ooh. Okay? So this is going to be pronounced as su. Ooh, su. So I'm going to show you a little bit about the wa. You guys have already seen it. Yeah. Yes. That's him. Yeah. So kubutz is the short, right? And shuruk is the long. Yes. Okay. So see how we have that one there? Ooh. I can't see from that far away. No. Close. All right. So we have, let's do this. I'm going to bring up our friend, the wa. Since we always have fun with this guy, okay? The wa is a lot of fun. So I'm going to put him up here, and we're going to draw this guy. And this is our friend, the wa. Okay? So this is our friend, the wa. Right? See, he's a little guy. He's got a little head up here and his little legs sticking down. Okay? So he's got a little arm here and a little arm there, and he's got a couple little legs down here. All right, but that's our friend the wa. So he's thinking about something. He's thinking about something, and he has a really great idea. Right? And so he says, let me show you. So he's thinking, right? He's cogitating, that's right. He has a really bright idea. I am not the greatest artist in the world, so. All right, so he's thinking, and he comes up with a great idea. And he says, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do such and such. So if we see this guy with a dot over his head, that makes the sound O. Okay? Same guy. Later on, he says, I'm hungry. So he goes somewhere and he eats some stuff he's not supposed to eat. He eats some unclean stuff, right? He eats him a big pork chop sandwich from Hardee's or something. Wow, you took that way too far. So he eats him something that don't agree with him. And it makes his stomach feel sick. He's like, oh my goodness, I've been poisoned. And see how it's pointing at his stomach because his stomach hurts? So he eats this thing, and then after a little bit, he goes, ooh, I shouldn't have eaten that. I know y'all were told me don't eat that pork chop sandwich for a reason. Well, when we see this same guy, but he has a dot in the middle, that makes the sound, ooh. I came up with this years ago because I thought it would be helpful to kids and people just learning. So he's like, ooh, this makes my stomach hurt so bad. I should never have eat that shrimp and lobster sauce. Okay? So later on, he goes to the pharmacy and he gets him some Pepto and he takes it and it makes his stomach feel better, okay? So now he's going home and he's standing in the kitchen. Okay? And a little mouse runs past his feet. And he says, ee! It's a mouse. It scared him, right? So if we see this wah with a dot underneath, he's going to make the sound ee. Because it scared him a little bit. It shocked him. He wasn't afraid of the mouse. He just wasn't ready for it. That's all. So you see, this is what I'm talking about. He can make plenty of different sounds, right? But it all depends on where the dot is. So that's why I tried to use little markers to show people and make it easy. And that's how I'm learning. That's how I'm learning the Korean alphabet right now. The guy that I was watching, he has a whole story. And you just follow his little story. And all of the letters or all of the words that he uses in his story, they mark what sound that shape makes. So he's got all kinds. So that's part of how I'm doing it. But, you know, we all have to have tools. You know, what do they call them? Mnemonics, right? We got to have those things. So anyway, I think that's about as far as we're going to go today. That's a lot to take in. You know what I mean? So I think we're going to go ahead and call it there. But like I said, we've got plenty of letters and words and stuff. And sometime, you know, if we have time, you know, I can sit down and do an actual Hebrew class with us, like what we used to do, like with our papers and all that stuff. It's just that on days when I'm giving the message over there, there's just not enough time to get both of them done. So anyway, any questions on what we covered today? That's what I'm saying. It's a Yiddish word. So that's why I told you. No, that's not how you spell it. Shul. Shul is a Yiddish equivalent of school. That's where that comes from. So in German, you know, you spell it S-C-H-U-H-L, right? So that's why I told you no, it's not spelled that. Because, yeah, it's like I said, it's a Yiddish word. So. Okay? I had a guy one time that was that was a Sephardim, and we were talking one time, and I called it the shul, and he said, "Oh, Ashkenazi, huh?" I said, "It is what it is," you know what I mean? And so he laughed about it, you know what I mean? But no, he was actually my barber, and so we were talking about. But no, he was a great guy. I liked the heck out of him. I kept going to him until he left there, you know what I mean? But yeah. But anyway, that's going to do it for this.